Labs loot seems to be absolutely juiced within Escape from Tarkov's PvE mode. Today we're going to showcase off the loot from 3 runs of Labs. We're going to showcase exactly what I did during those runs and the sorts of things that I actually opened in a brief format so we can kind of get through and then show you how much you make each run, as I've done plenty of guides as to how to go through Labs, and of course you guys can probably check those out if you want a more in-depth actual in-game Labs guide, but we're going to show off whether it's worth actually doing in the first place. If that sounds good, then make sure to destroy the like button down below, as it really does help me out and it's one of the best things that you can do. And of course, let's jump in. The main components of our loot runs that we were doing during this time was to mitigate how much money we're going to spend and the potential to lose money, because of course we have the Labs keycards only being a 10 out of 10 use right now, which means we got to be very decisive in which cards we're going to take, because we don't want to take a card that is going to, you know, generally lose us money over a long period of time or not really make us any money, wasting our time and meaning that we're going to extend our runs to the point where we could have just gone straight back into another one and open up the more profitable rooms. Now, there are some rooms that we didn't hit up during the loot runs which are worth doing, but primarily if you just don't spawn near them, they're not really that worth going to just for that loot. Those would be the yellow and violet rooms. They're pretty decent and they're not too expensive, and usually you will make your money back during those runs as the keycards have come down significantly in price. However, the runs that we're actually doing feature the blue room, we are hitting up the black room, and of course we're hitting up the green room. All 3 of these are pretty decent, but we've also added in the Labs Terror Group Manager's Office, as well as the actual Arsenal storage kind of container that we can open up in the middle of the lab as well, which generally gives you quite a bit of loot, and the key itself is very, very cheap to actually buy. And once you get in there, there's quite a few different spawns for different components for weapons as well as weapons themselves, which is always great for, of course, obtaining some of that stuff and being able to get some of those scopes which maybe you can't unlock. And it just is a very good room to open and giving you some of those rare weapons that you can't just buy off of the flea and maybe locked behind traders, for example, that you don't currently have unlocked. So, of course, that is the kind of runs that we were doing. Super simple, super quick, but now I think we should probably show you whether or not it was worth the money that we spent in these 3 runs. We'll do a breakdown of the cost of each of those keys and how much that cost us to open all of those keys during the 3 runs and how much loot we actually made. Now then, loot-wise, I have saved all of the loot that we did manage to get from the 3 Labs runs within my kind of thick case that I use for videos. This is the loot that we actually got, plus whatever is in our PMC that is kind of found in raid. Not these mags that we've got in here, but primarily everything else that's actually in us, as well as some of these injectors cases as well, both filled up with stims. So let's do a breakdown of the cost of these. You can see them on screen and what we've actually managed to get. I'm going to go ahead and sell some of this stuff. We're going to repair some of these weapons, because it's always nice to get your weapon repair skill up just by farming up some of these weapons, taking those pistols for example and just leveling those ones up, and of course repairing any of the other stuff just to max out your weapon maintenance skill as quickly as possible. And then of course we kept the dog tags of all of the ones that we did take out during those raids. Not too many, but yeah, I mean probably in the region about what, like 6 PMCs that we took out, a couple of raiders, but nothing more than that really. Just to confirm that we don't have any money currently within our stash, you can look here, we don't have any kind of out in the open where our money is actually going to go get thrown into, and of course we also don't have any things selling on the flea right now, no offers in, so anything that we sell from this point should just pop up in our actual stash, and we'll see how much we made from those 3 runs. We've sold absolutely everything, including our inventory stuff as well that we had on us, and so that is everything sold. However, this is how much we made just from literally selling to traders, and we've got them all in with Ragman in terms of the rest of the stuff that we did sell on the flea. There's a ton of stuff that we did sell, and of course those LEDXs coming in very big. We were able to pick up 2 LEDXs within one single black room, which is always good. But in terms of money, we made 2,027,000 just based on selling off to traders, some of the worst stims that don't really go for anything more than on the actual flea. Of course, we've got the BS ammo here that we could sell. I think they're like 20k each per stack of these, but we're going to keep them because they are just very good rounds and we'll use them at some point as well. We didn't sell the dog tags, but we could do, and these will probably sell for like a couple 100k total, maybe slightly less, but at the same time keeping those as well because we'll probably use them for barter trades or something at some point. The money underneath, so euros, USD and rubles, these are all just stuff that we found within the raid itself and not anything that we had, I guess, from selling anything. But let's take a look at how much money we made from Ragman, because we've got all of the money that we did possibly get from there, and we're going to drag and drop everything into the hardcore items case, which is our kind of money case that we've made from these raids, and then I'll join you back in a sec. So we've taken all of that money, put it into our actual thick case, and this is how much we've actually made from 3 runs within labs. And of course there's something that we need to do, and we'll deduct that in a second, which is how much it actually cost us to open up the 3 rooms that we opened up every single time and what the cost of those keys actually were, so we can take that off the total price, and then I'll do that. So a 10 out of 10 labs keycard is about 5.6 million, so that means we spent about 560k every single time that we did open up the room, which means we got to times that by 3, which will give us 1.6 million and 80,000 rubles spent just purely on opening up the black room from that. So let's grab the money down here and we'll put 80,000, and there we go. That is the money spent on the black keycard. So of course that's reduced the amount of money that we've made from that one kind of opening. But of course we opened up the blue keycard as well 3 times. This room is very hit and miss, and it's only really one of those things that you should do if you've got excess money, and it doesn't really make a huge difference to how much you make, but it is worth potentially opening as it only costs you about 230k per use. So we got 690k that we need to drag away just from that. So we've grabbed ourselves 500k and then another 190k. And then of course we got ourselves the green keycard room. This is 4.4 million. So we'll call it 4.5 to make things easier. Spending just under 1.5 million per actual raid. But just to be on the safe side, let's call it 450k per one. So that's essentially 1.35 million rubles just on the green room key as well. So we'll stack everything up in terms of the money from spending on the keys, and then we can essentially see exactly how much we made from these raids that we actually did do. So we spent about 2.62 million rubles. This is slightly higher than the actual value that we spent because we bought them cheaper than what we saw on the market at the time, but it's still 2.62 million rubles for those 3 runs, opening up all 3 doors. So we're going to subtract that from the total price, and we can have a look at the total price that we did make from doing those runs. So 500,000, and of course we got a full line of 500,000, which is 14 lots of 500k, so 7 million. 7.5 million, 7.95 million rubles was what we made from 3 different runs within this, and that is pure profit. So that's minus off the keys, and of course that kind of is, I guess, countering some of the money as well, because of course we could sell this stuff, which basically would cover the cost of the extra keys that we use, which is the labs manager's office key room and the weapons testing kind of container as well, which does cost a little bit of money, but combined they're really cheap anyway. So even if we were to remove all of this, we'd still make just shy of 8 million in 3 runs. So you're still making at this moment in time a ton of money from running labs if you just open up those rooms. Now I didn't account for any of the loot that we essentially got or could get if we actually searched up some of the other areas of the map. I just wanted to test whether these rooms are good and whether it's worth kind of looting up some of the other areas as well. So of course, if you're adding on all of the extra free loot that you don't require keys for when you're on labs, which is relatively easy as often you'll take out some of the PMCs anyway, and you can loot up those extra areas and just add like, you know, another 500k to 1 million rubles just from checking some of those areas. They can have bitcoins, they can have all sorts in those extra areas, things like the glass rooms where you can check the tables, there's lots of computers, all of that sort of stuff. If you're checking all of those areas, you can really make some serious rubles. And so if we were to look at it from a standpoint of just doing this loot run, it's about 2.7 million rubles per run on labs. Of course, that isn't taken into account the cost initially to be able to get into the labs, which is 166k for me because I have therapist unlocked. We'll call it 200k because that's what you can buy them off of the flea for. So 600k taken off as well, split between 3. So you're looking at about 7.3 million rubles total. So yeah, split that 3 ways. And of course, that's going to bring our percentage that we make per run. So you're still making about 2.4 million rubles of pure profit from labs, which is pretty insane how quick you can do these runs as well. It took me like maybe an hour, maybe, but that's with time like selling the loot and stuff. The more loot that you have, the easier it is because a lot of the stuff is just duplicate items, things like some of the stims that you can essentially just instantly sell to therapists rather than stockpiling them and having to manage them. So you can just do that directly out of your raid rather than doing what I did, which is stockpile them all up and have to, you know, go through and sort through them. But at the same time, keeping those high value stuff and not selling them instantly will allow you to mass sell them all at once on the flea, for example, which of course can net you some more money. And yeah, it's just a very, very good way of making money. Labs is still very juiced and it really is fantastic money right now. So yeah, I think it is entirely worth it to run those rooms. Things like red keycard, not so much. Yellow and violet are decent options, but they're kind of out of the way and can be a bit more risky actually opening up the doors themselves, as PMCs or raiders can shoot you as you open up the door, which obviously is not ideal. But if you do manage to take out most of the PMCs or raiders, then absolutely open them. They are definitely worth opening, but for the most part, this run netted us, yeah, 2.4 million guaranteed per run. Really, really good run. And of course, leave your comments in the description down below. Do you think it is a good thing that we have the 10 out of 10 uses? I'm not so sure. I think it's still a little bit too low and you can run out of those cards pretty quickly. And of course, it significantly impacts the money that you can make on a run like this. And often some of the other maps can be better in general, but you're spending a lot more time on those maps. So maybe it's brought labs back in line with money per hour of some of the other maps. Thanks for watching and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.